Hey everyone, welcome back. Happy New Year. We're in 2022. We made it. By the time this video goes up, the new year will pretty much be in full swing. A lot of us are going to be full out into our New Year's resolutions, doing really well with our progress, staying consistent, while some of us may feel fairly overwhelmed by the whole new year, new me type of concepts. I'm definitely in the latter group, but where I do tend to see a lot of value in the new year is looking back on the year that has just passed and reflecting on what went well, what you want to bring with you into the new year, and what do you want to leave behind. So in the spirit of the new year and in the spirit of minimalism, but approaching minimalism in a more holistic and intentional way, in a way that is meant to serve you rather than restrict you and make you feel deprived, these are 7 things that I'm decluttering in 2022. And spoiler alert, it's not stuff. And a lot of these things I have worked through / am working through actively along with a therapist. Because to be honest, it's really hard to work through a lot of these things yourself. And that's why I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is BetterHelp. So BetterHelp is a website that will help you get access to a professional licensed therapist. They have a roster of over 20,000 certified professional therapists, and you can access them in group therapy through phone calls, instant messaging, and even, which I've done before, video chat. Like Zoom style calls. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. And that can be any time that your therapist is available, and you can do it from anywhere in the world. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not a self-help line. It is professional therapy that you can access securely online. And BetterHelp will set you up with a therapist in as little as 48 hours after signing up. And if you don't really vibe with the therapist you've been matched with, you can easily request to be switched, because in my experience, that has been really important. You want to be able to jive with your therapist and get along with them, and financial aid is available if you need it. So you can visit betterhelp.com/Christina Mejas. I bet you didn't know that's how you say my last name. That's betterhelp.com, and join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. You can check out everything linked down below and get 10% off. So let's get into the rest of the video. The first thing I'm planning on decluttering in 2022 and beyond is guilt. I'm talking about crippling, harmful, and just straight up useless guilt. So I think in terms of guilt, I think it's really about evaluating the context in which we feel it, in which we experience it, and to think a little bit harder about why that might be the default setting and why that might be the initial experience. And what I realized this past year in a lot of my reflections and evaluating why I felt the way that I did whenever I did spend money or do something out of alignment with this ideal that I had, it really boiled down to a lot of me trying to achieve some unrealistic expectation of what I wanted my life to be. Rather than just experiencing my own life and living it, I would constantly punish myself and feel guilty for not being able to achieve those things. And no, I'm over that this year. I think there's taking accountability for, the things that you want to change in your life, for deciding to adhere to a certain value system, but it has to be done, I think, in a realistic and self-compassionate way where guilt just doesn't really fit. To me, wallowing in guilt and just allowing myself to be consumed and swallowed by that feeling, it's not helpful. It really holds you in this really unproductive, unhelpful spiral that just completely sucks. And I would rather work through my struggles or any sort of, dissonance that I might be experiencing. I'd rather work through it outside of the realm of guilt, because it's just not helpful. It's just unproductive. It sucks. No, we're letting go of guilt this year. Mindset number 2 is shoulding myself. Yes, I said shoulding. I think should is a really shitty word. I just think there's better words that you can use other than should when it comes to, things that you may want to change in your life, goals that you want to set, new lifestyles that you want to adhere to, or habits, whatever. I think we can frame it in a kinder, gentler way that feels a lot more abundant and approachable if you want to make certain changes in your life. So instead of saying, you should be eating more vegetables, you can frame it in the sense of, I would like to add a spoonful of greens to one meal every day and increase from there because I want to feel healthier and because I know vegetables are good for me, as opposed to, oh, you should be more healthy because you eat too much junk food. You really can't parent or punish yourself into making a positive change. There has to be self-compassion there has to be balance, and there has to be realistic expectations placed on whatever the change is that you're trying to make. So for me, the word should just comes with a lot of finger wagging, and I immediately just want to back away from it, and I don't find it motivating or helpful at all. And when it comes to any changes that I want to be making in my life this year, I'm not using the word should to make them. The third thing I'm decluttering this year is doom scrolling, or rage scrolling, or just searching the internet, TikTok, Twitter, just going online to get a rise out of myself and to get pissed off. Because let's face it, complaining and raging about things can sometimes feel good. I actually deleted Twitter last year because I found it was either, cute dog videos or people just being pissed off all the time about anything. And this also goes for the news. I stopped actively reading the news every day because I was just finding it was making me way too anxious. And then when you get down into the comment section, it is 10 times worse. And I think it's really important to stay informed, but I think setting a boundary on that is really important for your mental health and your mental clarity too. It might be a bit of a privilege to be able to voluntarily choose to be uninformed about certain things, but at the same time, you have to be able to protect your peace. And the way tweets, TikToks, Instagram videos, even news headlines are designed nowadays, they're designed to get a rise out of you, whether it be about, politics, healthcare, or even the housing market, or even something as benign as a hamburger. I'm sure somebody's gonna get mad about a hamburger article or whatever.
You call hamburgers steamed hams?
Yes.
So when it feels too much, or when I catch myself feeling like I'm scrolling just to get a rise out of myself, or to indulge in people arguing with each other because people love to complain and then people love watching other people complain, that's a big no for me. That really drains my energy. It really drains my peace. Inflammatory tweets, headlines, TikToks, I'm out.
And you wanna what?
What?
I'm out.
Okay.
The fourth thing I'm decluttering this year is probably going to be my favorite thing to declutter, and that is adhering to any sort of extreme. For me, this will manifest in my decluttering, in my low buy rules, in my intentional spending, in my budget, even in work and goal setting. I'm really letting go of this all or nothing rules and mindset that I've been holding on to for a bit too long. If you guys are new to my channel, I talk all about how I went from being a full-blown shopping addict with $120,000 of student loan debt, and I was able to get myself out of that debt and overcome my shopping addiction by discovering things like minimalism, budgeting, and just spending more intentionally. But that was not without its extremes in achieving those goals. So in a lot of ways, extreme thinking, extreme mindsets, very all or nothing type of goal setting has really helped me in many ways. It really did help me get out of debt. It helped me see through decluttering and stopping shopping and minimalism very clearly. And it worked for me pretty much until it didn't. Because that's when all these other things started to seep into my life, like a lot of shoulding or a lot of guilt for spending money when I shouldn't have. So you can see how all of these sort of mindsets and attitudes and limiting beliefs really intertwined and essentially micromanaging ourselves until every morsel of joy is gone. And I am just so over that. I talked about that in depth in my toxic minimalism video. I will leave it linked here for you guys. And since that video, I really had to think about the mindsets and approaches that I've taken to my life that really ultimately, they may have helped me at some point, but ultimately overall, they're leaving me with a sense of weight and doing the opposite of the benefits that they're supposed to be bringing. And that manifested itself from thinking in extreme ways, which is also why I'm not doing a no buy this year, in case you guys were wondering. We like a balance. Balance is good. Number 5 is I'm going to declutter the violation of my own boundaries. Now, you kind of have to know what your boundaries are before you know that you're violating them. So I really do encourage you to explore and set some of your own boundaries this year, some non-negotiables that will help you preserve your best self and help you be your best self. When I was a full-blown shopaholic, I had very flimsy boundaries around money, around saying yes. And when I went pretty extreme on frugality and minimalism, I think a lot of my boundaries were too rigid and I still didn't feel settled. So for 2022, I really want to focus on defining what my boundaries are and doing my best to stay conscious of them and to stay within them. I think boundaries are really meant to preserve the person that we want to be and that we want to build for ourselves. And when we're violating them or letting them fly left, right, and center, that's when it's going to be really hard to achieve. So some boundaries that I have for myself are like saying no to things that I straight up don't want to do, or saying no to overcommitting. Like I've burned out a ton of times this year on YouTube by saying yes to like too many commitments, overcommitting deadlines. And hello, no wonder you burn out. Even though a lot of my financial boundaries I feel like will be a little bit loosened this year, I have a lot of savings goals and investment goals that come first. They come before the fun money and the shopping. And then in terms of health and mental health, there's boundaries that I want to maintain there too, like making sure I go for like a mental health walk every day. So there's a lot of boundaries that I'm going to be exploring this year, and things ultimately just feel easier when your boundaries are respected and you respect them back. The sixth thing I'm decluttering from my life is FOMO. If you've never heard of the word FOMO, it means fear of missing out. And essentially, I feel like that's a lot of the reason that we potentially overspend on things. That's why we feel ugly against certain beauty standards, or we feel like we're lacking in certain things in our lives. I think a lot of that has to do with FOMO. And social media is like the one ring of, FOMO. I feel like it's the thing that rules it all.
And in the darkness, find them.
FOMO to me is basically no different than jealousy, at least the way I experience it within my own self. I see something, I really like it, and then I start to envy that person and wish I had their life and think that thing, once it's in mine, will make my life like theirs. And talk about lack of gratitude, man. Like, holy. The reality is a lot of us overshare our successes and our highlights and undershare or even conceal our failures and the lows. And FOMO loves that. I think we can just use that as a reminder to be grateful for what we have, to recognize that it's not a reflection on our character and that we're all on our own paths and exactly where we're supposed to be right now. It's fine. That purse or that vacation or, that couch, it's really not going to change things. We're good. And the final thing I'm decluttering this year is chronic self-improvement. Look, it is exhausting to try to improve and level up on yourself all the time, speaking from experience. And I really thought to myself this year, why not just allow myself to be? What I have in mind when I say this is like those That Girl videos on TikTok. Of course I want to get up at 5 a.m. and get all my work done and have a green smoothie and have a perfect 10-step skincare routine in the perfect apartment. That's not reality. And in reality, that girl is probably exhausted. So with all this, I'm not saying to not hold yourself accountable or to avoid working on some habits that you want to change, habits that don't add value to your life, that make you feel worse. But the constant pursuit of being able to get my email inbox down to zero, or to be able to work out that much more efficiently so I can complete some other mundane task even faster, isn't something I'm willing to pour my energy into. To me, if self-improvement is not approached from a healthy and self-compassionate motivation, then I think it can very quickly turn into another form of escapism, to avoid feeling those feelings and have to process them. So this year, I feel like I'm really just gonna stop trying to change my life all the time and instead just focus on living it. Focus on figuring out what it is I enjoy, focus on enjoying those things guilt-free, and still focus on reaching the other goals that are important to me. But it's not about this sense of like leveling up and this like moral superiority, productivity superiority anymore. It's way too exhausting. I'm so over it. And that I am decluttering. I'm not even gonna donate it. We're just throwing it in the trash. So those are some of the things that I have chosen to work on decluttering in the year of 2022. Yes, it may be a little, abstract to think about, but this is like, to me, the next stage in intentionality and living a life that I want to cultivate for myself. It's about leaving that sort of negative vibes and focus on moving forward with a more positive and abundant mindset. And I think decluttering all these things is really going to help. Let me know what you're planning on decluttering for 2022. What are some of your intentions this year? And how do you plan on putting that into action? Let's discuss down below. If you like this video and want to see more like this, please give this video a thumbs up. It really is a great way you can help support my channel. I really want to get to 100K this year. That's like my 2022 goal that's actually tangible. So giving this video a thumbs up will really help. Please and thank you. And finally, I just want to say thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. If you guys were interested in giving them a try and using their services, then you can check out everything in the link down below. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. See you in the next one. Bye. Mijas, Christina, mijas, go, mijas. It's like a little guttural, you know?